One of the main principles of animal welfare is to provide freedom from discomfort. What justification is there for the prolonged veterinary management of chronic painful conditions such as laminitis or very severe sporting injury that takes many months to heal?
Thank you very much. I'll just repeat the question. One of the main principles of animal welfare is to provide freedom from discomfort. What justification is there for the prolonged veterinary management of chronic painful conditions such as laminitis or very severe sporting injury that takes many months to heal? Royal Highness.
Well, there isn't a simple answer to this, is there? Because veterinary medicine has advanced, because I suppose you could argue that in 40 years ago, probably the simple answer to any injury was to put a horse down, because you neither had the facilities or the ability to make them comfortable with that injury, and there was no real way of treating serious injury. And you can argue that that has changed dramatically in the improvement in medications of all sorts and the ability to operate on things that you wouldn't have done in the past. So that a whole range of issues come into play here on the definition of comfortable, age, place, whether the owners can afford to keep them going under a different sort of regime. I think you really do have to judge each case on its merits, and if that's not answering the question, then it probably is a really difficult question to answer just as a sort of a general subject. But of course, as medical research has improved and treatments have improved, it muddies the water. It makes things much less clear, and there are many more ifs and buts, as I know to my cost, about whether you instantly bang a horse on the head because it's got something wrong with it, which some people would equally argue was a cop-out, when you might actually, might have a comfortable life even if it wasn't quite right. I don't think it's I think you really do have to judge each case on its merits, taking into account both the veterinary support, the individual owner's abilities to cope, as well as whether that, in fact, is an animal who could be made comfortable and possibly happily spend its life in a field. If you can manage that, is that the right answer? I think for most people who have old horses, there is a point at which you sort of know that they're happy in a field or they've got past the point of being able to cope. Now, that's actually a judgment call which owners who know their animals might be able to make. I've seen it, I've had arguments with a vet about what I assumed was the point at which the dog had reached that stage, and the vet didn't agree. The definition of comfort and whether you know that that's really true, quite a difficult issue to pontificate on, I suspect. But I do think we've got to the stage where, you know, there are cases where you really wouldn't have ever thought that a horse could have coped with that injury in the past. And yet now you're seeing them not just recover, but actually going back into what is a useful, if that's the right expression, an enjoyable life, different, but nonetheless something that they've enjoyed. We've got to keep an open mind about that.
Thank you, ma'am.
I was just going to say, just one view with that again. It is as you were saying, knowing your horse, because I had an incident with my dear old horse, and I'd made the hardest decision of my life. He had a bit of an injury in the field, and I made the hardest decision to have him put down, and I arranged the vet and the guy to come and collect him, and I was having those last moments with the horse, and he had been in box rest for a month, and I just couldn't do it to him, and I felt he was suffering. And so I thought, as a last resort, I was going to lead him out just for a bit of grass. Well, the little bugger towed me out, and exactly, and I thought, he's telling me there's not time to go yet. And when the vet came and everyone came to take him away, I said, I'm really sorry, I've changed my mind. And they said, listen, you can't get them back once they're dead. And it's knowing it's sort of your horses. And he told me he wasn't ready, and I think the same. The individual needs of them, and there are many horses that aren't happy in retirement because of the way they've been kept, and it doesn't suit a lot of horses just being turned out to the field, but there are others that, as you were saying, can live very, very happily in that sort of lifestyle.
Thank you.